Hi, this is Stephen Mead, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the bullseye belief system. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Mead, and this is the Bullseye Guy Podcast. Stephen Mead back again with another Bullseye Guy Podcast. Been covering a lot of ground, a lot of different topics, a lot of different personalities coming in. We have some great guests lined up, getting them to come to the Groove Radio Station in DTLA, downtown LA. We did the Skype call, obviously, a week or two ago with Oliver, and while we like Skype calls, we love people coming in studio, so we are going to push on that. We have a lot of talent in LA, people that are able to come down. It's not an issue of talent or access, it's a matter of timing. Getting people scheduled, including my own, with the travel I have is always difficult. However, we're going to get some good guests down here. Today, we're going to talk about something a little different. This is going to be a topic that's going to cover a lot of ground, and it's somewhat entrepreneurial, somewhat conspiratorial. So I'm not going full on George Norrie and Coast to Coast. I love George and the guys late at night for that. But we're going to talk about something I've created called YOS TOS. And what is YOS TOS? What does it stand for? What does it mean? And I looked at doing a book. Sometimes I tend to like to create things. I consider myself a creator, but I like to build a car, but I'm not always the guy that drives it. And so I'll have an idea, and I know it's something that I want to get out in the ethos. If I can ever find somebody who says, yeah, I want to take off and I want to do that, then great, I'll partner with them and I'll let them run with it. But I like to create the framework and the outline. And this one had been coming for a while. And it's something I looked at doing a book around. I'm going to every now and then look over at Eagle because he's sitting next to me. He's going to start laughing. I said, I want to write a spy thriller. I want to write a book. I'm in LA. Why not? Everybody has a book in this town. Everybody's selling something. That's why I used to love when I first moved to LA. People go, I hate LA. LA's fake. What do you like about it? I said, I love LA because everybody's selling something. In Los Angeles, everybody will talk to you because they don't know who you know. They don't know what you can do for them, either now or in the future. Everybody's nice to you in LA. It might be a fake nice. I'm fine with that because everybody's selling something. They have an agenda. However, some things in LA work very well. Books, entertainment, influencers. Again, one of my great jokes out there, the difference between New York and LA. I guess I'm going to riff and ramble on this one, even though I have my notes in front of me. What's the difference between New York and Los Angeles? It's a difference in how you count the commas. And here's what I mean by that. In New York, your worth, your social status is measured by the number of commas in your bank account. Think about it for a minute. If you have $1,000, that's one comma. 100,000, still one comma. $1 million is two commas. In New York, you're measured by the commas in your bank account. In Los Angeles, you're measured by the commas in your Instagram account. Your social value and worth is how many followers do you have? Not how much money do you have. You got 1 million followers? Oh, you're more important. You have 100 million? 2 commas? Wow. Social net worth is completely different. But within that social net worth of money and finance also became something interesting that I started following called social scoring. And social scoring is under this premise of this book I wanted to write called YOS TOS. And what is YOS TOS? Well, let's start off at the beginning with China. This is a conspiratorial story about China. This isn't full-on Orson Welles, but it's something I call faction. And that's a word I created. I'm sure a bunch of other people have used it. Maybe not. If not, then hey, it's a term I coined. There's traditionally two types of book. There's fact and fiction, right? Or fiction and nonfiction if we want to be particular, but fiction, nonfiction. But there's things that are fact, and then there's things that are made up, and there's stories. Faction, to me, was what are things that are factual going on in the past or today, And what can you predict out in the future to create this storyboard that might lead out to the future? And that was where we came up with YOS TOS. What does YOS TOS stand for? Why is this important? Why is it relevant? How does it even compare or relate to the Bullseye Guy podcast? It's all going to come together. YOS TOS stands for Year of the Snake, Terms of Service, TOS. All right, so let's start with YOS, YOS. Year of the Snake. Any of you that have been following China's big in the news right now. There's trade wars and Trump and all of these things are going on. I've been watching China for years. First time I got scared of China, I tell people this all the time. I've been scared of China 3 times in my life. And by scared, I don't mean really scared, but fascinatingly, frighteningly scared. The first time, the opening Olympics, the opening ceremony. Do you remember what year? I don't remember what year that was. I would look it up. But any of you that saw the opening ceremonies for the Chinese Olympics, fascinating to me. 1,500 people in perfect militant unison. The precision of the opening ceremonies were things when I watched that, I went, America can't compete. We couldn't get 1,500 people to agree to things or show up, much less perform in perfect unison. But it was underneath there. The Chinese government knew that they had an issue with image. This was all the way back to, I think, 6, 7, 8, whenever the Olympics were. It doesn't matter. You guys can look it up. They said, hey, we need to project a better image. We want everybody to smile. If you go back and watch the opening ceremonies, there's 1,500 people, perfect unison, smiling. Not smiling because they're happy, smiling because they were told to smile. And I watched that and went, wow, that precision of compatibility is something that was very difficult in the United States. Second time I was scared, not too long ago, I was in Shenzhen. Any of you that haven't looked it up, go to Google, YouTube Shenzhen Light Show. And the Shenzhen Light Show, I was there. I was with a great friend of mine, Mike Wang, one of the top people in the world. If you ever want to do business in China or something, Mike's amazing. Mike, I was in Hong Kong. He said, you have to come to Shenzhen. I was like, Mike, I don't have time. Take the bullet train. I will pick you up. I'll give you a tour. And I did. I took the bullet train, 15 minutes. I was from Hong Kong to Shenzhen. Took longer to go through security than it did to get there. And you're on a bullet train, all of a sudden you get up, Mike's great. He picked me up in a, quote, minivan. Again, if you're not watching on video, I just did air quotes. Mike's minivan, because it's Shenzhen and it's Chinese, it wasn't a minivan. It was a moving movie studio. His minivan has 2 big reclining seats that have massagers built into them and a footstool. And in front, it goes down and there's, I would say beer and wine, but it was all fancy stuff. I don't drink I don't know what it was. And he's got a screen and he flips a button and the screen goes from see-through to frosted. And then from there, another one drops down and he can project. He does presentations in the van when he picks people up to drive them around. This is a $500,000 minivan. So sometimes when is a minivan not a minivan? When Mike Wang picks you up in Shenzhen in a minivan. But he drove me around, gave me a great tour. He's got a penthouse at the top of one of the hotels where he entertains people and was telling me about Shenzhen. And it's where Apple and all these companies are there. But we watched the light show. And what is the light show? It is, if you've ever been to Bellagio in Vegas, the light show in Shenzhen versus the Bellagio in Vegas is the difference between a Matchbox car, a Hot Wheels car that you might play with out of a McDonald's Happy Meal, and a Formula One car racing around the track. That's the difference between the Bellagio light show and Shenzhen. A Happy Meal car and a Formula One car. Every building in this city is lit up. At 8:30, they do a coordinated light show. You're walking through the city and it's done to music. Every building has lights on it. You could never do this in the United States. The electrical grid isn't set up. The technology's not set up. But every building in the United States, not every, but if you thought about New York, buildings are owned by individuals. They're property owners. China owns everything. Second time I was scared watching the light show in Shenzhen. Third one just recently was in Malta. And China on television, again, I don't think it was in the US, but in Malta, they had on television the 70th year anniversary for the People's Republic of China. And I was watching it thinking, oh, that's kind of interesting because in America, we're fascinated with primarily round numbers, but sometimes half numbers, right? It's your 10th anniversary. It's the 100th anniversary. We don't often celebrate in grand style the 70th, maybe the 75th. This was just the 70th. But the show, Act 1, I didn't realize there was 4 acts. Act 1 was bigger than the opening ceremony of the Olympics, with people coming in and thousands of people. And I believe it was across Tiananmen Square, which is where they'd had some issues years ago. But you're watching this going, wow, all of these people and precision and lights and technology. And then it goes Act 2. Like Act 2, Act 3. It was 1 hour where every sequence and scene was bigger than most of the Olympics. And this was just the 70th anniversary. Why is all that important? Year of the Snake. Year of the Snake, I have to look it up. It's 2024, 2025. Primarily, China has stated, this is leading into the whole thing. This was a 10-minute setup of what YOS TOS is about, but you'll see where I've been thinking about this for a while. China has publicly stated that in the year 2025, they want to be the #1 economic power in the world. Not me making it up. It's called 2025 or China 2025. You can, again, look it up. I give you little tidbits that I say, hey, go look it up if you're interested. China 2025 says China wants to be the #1 economic power in the world. That's why these trade wars are going on. That's why they fight, the technology, the way things are designed. But they've also stated, not as directly, there's not a premise for it like China 2025, but they want to be the military world superpower as well. And that's a problem. And it's a big problem because China can spend $1 trillion on military, and the U.S. does as well, but the U.S. is fighting wars on 50 different continents. We have bases in 200 cities around the world. Rightly or wrongly, this isn't the political statement. The primary point is China's not fighting any wars. So they're spending so much money putting together a military for what? They don't defend anybody. They don't fight anywhere. It's really interesting. And China started creeping into the China Sea and building air bases. So there's a lot of things going on that has not only the United States, but the rest of the world very concerned. Where is this leading us to? YOS, Year of the Snake, 2025, publicly stated. The Year of the Snake, if you study it, is the year, in good lore, there's a bunch of good Chinese. In bad Chinese lore, it's when China, the snake, sprouts multiple heads and devours the world. So why did they pick 2025? I don't know. I've heard China has a lot of symbolism. It's the year the snake devours the world. Fair enough. TOS. TOS stands for Terms of Service. Terms of Service is that little box that every one of us check. Every time you sign on to your bank account, every time you download an app, every one of us have checked the Terms of Service. That's actually also called an SLA in some levels, but it's basically the box you check whenever you download an app to do things. And those terms of service gives that person and that provider, not you, the individual, the company, a lot of rights. Oh, we're signing up to WeChat or WhatsApp or this app or that app. We want access to your photos. Check. Access to your contacts. Check. Access to your location. Check. Terms of service, you don't read it. And if you did, you couldn't do anything about it because you can't change the terms of service. Just like in Facebook, the reason Facebook's getting in trouble, terms of service, Facebook owns your data. It's not just your data. They own your pictures. They own your likeness. Anything you put in Facebook, when you check terms of service to use that platform for, quote, again, big air quotes, free, Facebook can monetize it. Terms of service is a really interesting premise for what we do. Where does that lead us? I started really looking at China. And again, I've got friends in China who said, don't do this, don't do this. I was like, I hope I don't get in trouble, right? There's some things, again, the NBA just happened for reference. One guy posted something about Hong Kong, China freaked out. There's this big, you can't say bad things about China. And I'm not saying bad things, but I want to do a spy thriller called YOS TOS, Year of the Snake, Terms of Service. What's it about? Well, let's talk about some facts. The facts of China. Number one, they have something called social scoring. If you don't know what social scoring is, you better, and you should. The U.S. has a very, very lightweight version of that called a credit score. Your credit score basically controls whether or not you can get a cell phone for free or down payment or not. If you've got a good credit score, you don't have to do a deposit. If you have a bad one, might have to put a deposit on a cell phone. If you're trying to buy a car, you might be able to buy one pretty easy, low interest or high interest if your score's there. If it's too high, you might not get approved for a loan. So credit scoring is there, and it's based on your history of what you've done, how responsible you are with finances. China's at a different level. They have social scoring, and you start at 100 and go down from there. So your score is 100. If the Chinese think you're doing something bad, if they see you on the train acting up, your score can get dinged. If you start talking bad about the government, your score can get dinged. If you get to a certain score, I don't remember what it is. It might be 78. Again, don't hold it against me. If you get to somewhere in the 70s, you have a problem where you can no longer buy a plane ticket. There's 28 million people right now in China who can't buy a plane ticket because their scores are too low. If it gets even lower than that, you can't buy a train ticket. If it gets lower than that, you can't buy a bank account. If it gets too low, you can't have a phone. Think about if you don't have a phone, you don't have a bank account, you can't get on a plane or a train and go anywhere. Do you even exist? Kind of interesting. Well, I saw some stuff the other day, and I'm not sure this is actually completely accurate, but apparently now for social scoring, the list of grievances has increased, as government's prone to do. Starts one place and grows to another. The CCTV, the China television, they're now not only watching you on the subways and the trains, but they're listening. If they hear you talking bad, you can get dinged. Your cell phones have microphones. If they hear you talking bad about the government, you can get dinged. If you don't pick up dog poop from your pet, you can lose points. If you put trash out and don't pick it up, if you're not a good social citizen of Chinese, you can get dinged. I'm not making this up. This is fact. Social scoring is going on, and it's fact. And it's kind of frightening, but it's happening. And even worse, there's premises towards the U.S. starting to move towards this. There's things within Facebook of, do you get scored? Are you a good actor? Are you a bad actor? Who determines those things is a whole different story. So terms of service moves into social scoring. Let's talk about some other facts on China. There's a company out there called Huawei, right? The number one manufacturer of cell phones in the world for many years. At first was Nokia. Nokia's gone, and BlackBerry. But in the recent decades since iPhones have come around, for many years it was iPhone. And then for a couple years it was Samsung. And then far down the list were a bunch of other players. And then Huawei moved up. Huawei's now number 2 in the world, on pace to be number 1 in the world for cell phone manufacturing. Now, we may not know that in the U.S. because for the most part, we're on Samsung and Apple, but we're not the rest of the world. The rest of the world exists on Huawei and Chinese devices. And one of the big areas for the rest of the world is actually sub-Saharan Africa. Why do I talk about that? Well, if you follow geopolitics, Africa is one of the burgeoning nations, and the African nation needs to come online. Well, the easier way to come online right now is with a cell phone. Cell phone, internet access on your phone, digital access. Well, Huawei has phones and has been distributing them to the tunes of tens and hundreds of millions of phones through Africa and other poor regions, where now you have a device. So you have a phone, Huawei phone. America can't get a Huawei phone. And in the U.S. government, it is illegal and forbidden to get a phone from Huawei. Why? Because the government believes every single device that comes out of China is infected with spyware and malware. So the U.S. military government, it's illegal and forbidden to even have one. So when you think about Huawei not only giving away phones, they're also giving away 5G. 5G is a whole brand new super fast spectrum for internet access and Wi-Fi, right? In the U.S., we're going to have to pay for it, but The Chinese have been giving it away. They've been distributing 5G. All of these are facts. I'm going to check off some facts and lead to the fiction side of where I think this will go. Kenya again. The Chinese are great at debt, financial debt. The United States has at least $1 trillion of debt held by the Chinese. Now, we supposedly will never default on it because we're the United States, but apparently Africa and the Kenyans thought they'd never default either, and they defaulted. The port of Kenya, which is about the only place where the Kenyan continent can make money because the port is where they export everything. Well, they borrowed a bunch of money, they defaulted, and the Chinese now own the port of Kenya, which technically means they somewhat own the country. Not technically, not governmentally, but financially, they've created a choke point, and it's not just in Kenya and Africa. I have friends in South Africa and South America. The Chinese have been funding development in these other countries. You need $50 billion for a super railroad or for a highway or for 5G. Hey, the Chinese will come in and give it to you. But it comes with strings attached. So they're giving away phones, they're giving away 5G, they're giving away money, banking, GPS. There's all kinds of things that are going on within the world, and the Chinese are giving it away. Are they good actors or bad actors? Well, I guess we shall see. So, YOS TOS, Year of the Snake, Terms of Service. Here we are in, I don't know, I'm not good with dates. 2019 still?
21.
Eagle's holding up one finger. What does one mean?
21.
Are we in 2021 yet?
Oh, I see.
No, what year are we? 2020.
That was the date.
Oh.
2019.
It's the 21st. No, we're in the year 2019. I was like, what year is this? All right, so we're in the year 2019. My projection, my prediction, this is where the factual book moves into the fictional book. I want to do something that says, hey, over the next 5 years, let's fast forward to the year 2025. Let's make some assumptions. I don't like the word assumptions. Let's make some predictions. All right. It's easy to predict in the year 2025, a couple things will be going on. Number one, almost everybody in the world by that point will have a cell phone. It will be connected to the internet or some sort of data. We will do a lot of things on our phone, including paying bills, transferring money, paying our utilities, doing our banking. Now, whether it's on the phone or the computer, those are going to be our primary points of access. We're not going to have a lot of access to, we don't go pay our utility bill, a utility company. We aren't really going to banks anymore. It's going to be phone or computer for access for virtually everything. So we've got digital access in the year 2025, which means our passwords, our keys, almost everything are on our devices to access our money, to access our utilities, to access our credit cards. But it also is to access our GPS. And why is GPS important? GPS to me is kind of interesting. My prediction in the year 2025, most people aren't going to know how to get anywhere. They're not going to know where they're going because they're not really going to pay attention. Half the time, they're not even going to know the address of where they go. It's going to be in their GPS. Recent, oh yeah, go home. Go here, go here. I think we're going to forget addresses. I think we're going to forget how to get places because we're so reliant now on navigation and GPS. I know I'm down here again, Groove Radio. I know how to get here now because I've been here enough, but the first 5, 6, 7 times I didn't pay attention. I just put it in GPS and it would route me and boom, I'm here. Well, we're probably going to forget addresses. So we're going to be relying upon GPS to get us around. That's a problem because going backwards to the factual side of things going on today, we had this issue a couple months ago where 2 of our warships, military warships, ran into each other in the middle of the ocean. And you're thinking, those are pretty big ships. How do you just run into each other? Well, it kind of came out, pilot error, captains weren't paying attention. No, apparently the ships were number 1 on autopilot, which is fine. They're in the middle of the ocean. People weren't paying attention, but the GPS was hacked. And a new destination point was put in for those 2 ships to run into each other. The GPS systems were hacked. Let that sink in for a minute. If the GPS didn't work, we're in trouble. You wouldn't remember where to go, or if it routed you to the wrong place. Now, where does that lead us to? Part of my prediction, the year 2025, a lot of people aren't going to drive anymore. So not only are we not going to know where to go, we're not going to remember addresses. Why? Because the Uber driver gets us there. Or Lyft. I wonder if Uber will still be around in 2025. Will they make it? I don't know. But Lyft, my philosophy is we're not even going to, I would never get in a car in the year 2025. If I have to, it's going to be the worst day of my life. I predict flying taxis will be here long before autonomous cars. I've talked about this for years. I don't want to sit in the back of an autonomous self-driving car from Santa Monica or Beverly Hills to downtown LA because I'm still in traffic. I want to get in a little Uber taxi at Beverly Hills Montage that takes off from the parking garage, routes over the highway, and lands in downtown LA, and then I'll get around. I can get downtown in 4 minutes, not 40. Sitting in the back of an autonomous car doesn't get me where I want to go. Different story. Uber 2025. We're not going to have cars. So we're going to be relying upon transportation. We're going to pay all of our bills. We're going to have people come pick us up, whether it's a car, whether it's a flying taxi, whether we still have a car. If we still have a car, it's either going to be electric, which means it's contingent upon the electrical grid, or we're going to pay with gas with a credit card, which means we have to swipe our card, at the pump, just like we do normally. Where's this leading to? 2025, I also don't believe we're going to have money. And I don't mean money's going to disappear. I mean, money in the traditional sense is disappearing only under the premise of it's going to be digital. Now, whether it's digital like your debit card, I think almost everybody has a debit card. When you wipe up and swipe your debit card, it's technically not digital money, but it kind of is. You don't pull a dollar bill out anymore. You don't pull out a quarter to pay anything. Right? I felt like Joe Biden making a quarter joke. I was going to say to make a payphone call or at a parking lot, but you don't pull out change to pay for stuff. It's a debit card, right? Well, in the year 2025, I think it's going to be crypto or digital. Now, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, or even a JP Morgan token, we're going to have a card or a phone that has all of our accounts on it, right? Think of Apple Pay right now, or your Starbucks. You walk up and you pay for Starbucks with your phone. That's all digital money. We're not going to have money to pull out. We're going to have credit cards. We're going to be paying everything online with our phones. Where does that lead us to? YOS TOS. 2025. Chinese New Year. Imagine if you woke up and on Chinese New Year 2025, it's not January. I think Chinese New Year is somewhere in February. I should look it up. Imagine if you woke up and you get up and get ready to check the news on your phone and order an Uber to go to work and pre-order your Starbucks, and your phone doesn't work. Your bank account's at zero. Your credit cards are frozen. Uber won't work because GPS doesn't work, and you have no access to anything. You think, well, I still have a car. I'm going to get in the car and drive. That's fine. But if the electricity's not working, your electric vehicle won't charge. Now, it might be charged for 20 or 30 miles, but then what? If you pull up to a gas station, you're not going to have money to pay for gas. So you're going to pull a credit card out, but your credit card doesn't work because all your accounts are zeroed out. And it won't work anyway because the electrical grid's been frozen and the GPS is there. YOS TOS, Year of the Snake, means terms of service. You've agreed to all of this. So the spy thriller. Wrapping up, this is what the YOS TOS book was supposed to be about. People will go, oh, it's a spy thriller. Who's going to play the Ethan Hunt? Who's going to come in and save the day? Who's going to be the superhero? And I said, there is no superhero. I think China could take over the world without ever firing a bullet. That to me is a frightening thought. If you woke up and on your phone and your computer, you couldn't access your bank accounts, you couldn't order a car, you couldn't order food, your electricity didn't work, what would you do? Well, the Chinese might have a solution. This is kind of how the book ends. How do you get your money back? How do you get your accounts back? It's easy. you agree to the Chinese social scoring. You just agree to be a citizen of the Chinese government, and you start at 100 as a good citizen of the Chinese. And they could take over the world without firing a bullet. Is that a spy thriller? I don't know, because there's no spy. This is going on. It's faction. Will that happen? Again, I don't know, but the premise of where we're going with the factual things that are happening, just watch on a daily basis. There's article after article, instance after instance of things the Chinese are doing that to me are frightening if we don't find a way to control it. That's YOS TOS. You're the snake terms of service. Will I get it done? No idea, but maybe somebody else will go do it. I've put it out there. Anyway, that's it for me. Stephen Mead, another episode of The Bullseye Guy. Appreciate you tuning in. Again, it's thebullseyeguy.com. Stephen Mead. Looking forward to next week. Thank you again.